Okay, hey guys, how you going? Next video, we're still doing the same stuff, taking a lot of videos to explain this. But I really want people to just get educated and stop being stupid, to be quite honest with you. So, Reinhardt is a rush tank, he's anti-hit skill, right? How a Reinhardt would say attack on Numbani, right, is firstly he'd make a decision. Does he go down this path? Does he go down that path? Does he go down the main path? And does he go along? Say he's made his decision, there are projectile heroes in his way, so he's made his decision to go up here. The first thing he would do, he has control of this corner. There's a tank or something, say there's even a Ramattra, or Rodol, or Raya, whatever. First thing he does is he pins from corner to corner. So he'd pin from that corner there to this corner here, and if he gets anyone in the pin, they'd fling off the map. So that's like how you play it. You could go from beneath, you could go main, you could flank main, and come up this staircase. Doesn't matter how he does it, but this is what he'd do. So the first thing he'd do is he would clear any damage dealers who are situated here. Not tanks, damage dealers. So is there a, Torbjorn and May counter the shit out of them, so hopefully Hanzo, Junkrat, they all counter. But that's part of the game. So he doesn't want to pick a fight with them, but he would if he had to for here. Alright, so he'd go here, try to clear them, because he's a tank that can counter DPS, right? Even though projectile heroes technically can. Next, he would rotate around here, and this is where he'd actually get value, right? If there are hit scan heroes here, or there, or there, what he would do is he would pin to them, close the distance, and force them off the high ground. Then drop, and finish them off. He doesn't want to be anywhere near the enemy tank, right? So, you're already failing at this hero if you're swinging at the tank. That's the idea. So the first thing you do is he would scout where the tank is. There's two places the tank could be. The tank could be up there, and up there, or the tank could be holding this staircase at that high ground there, like in this area. He could also be on the objective, which would be pretty dumb. But they're the places the tank could be. Wherever the tank is, he would avoid the tank and he would chase them. So he just say the Ramatra's say the Ramatra's shooting at him or whatever. He sees the Ramatra shooting. He doesn't give a shit. He just pins past. The Ramatra's stuck there with his tail between his legs, and he's forcing any DPS here out of position, right? He's controlling this corner here. Then, boom, he's controlling this corner here. He sees some damage dealers who have retreated over there, anything. Boom, close distance quickly. Hit scan heroes can't handle it. Projectile heroes mess him up because he moves along the horizontal. Yeah, that's what he does. He goes from horizontal corner to horizontal corner. And he forces DPS to give up those corners of space. That's how he takes space as a tank. So what does Winston do? It's also worth noting that as he's taking space, it doesn't matter if there's one or even four squishy heroes at those corners. It's even better if there's four, because then he's zapping, then he's swinging at four at the same time. It's exactly the same for Winston. Winston is great on Watchpoint Gibraltar, because it's literally his map. But any maps where there's multiple levels of high ground, fantastic for Winston. You'll see pros using Winston on that map a lot actually. So, thing about Winston and even Hammond is even Diva, a lot of the tanks, right? They don't really go up high and then dive down. They pretty much only do floor dives. Because a lot of the tanks can't actually fly, or if they can, it's not for a long time. Like Farah can fly for a long time, Echo can fly for a long time, Mercy can fly for a long time. All tanks really can do is floor dives. So they would begin at this corner here, right? This is if he's going down the main path, because he can also choose to go down that path. That's the other thing. But if he's going down main, first thing a Winston would do would be to take this corner, force anyone out from here shooting his team. The second corner, he would try to soft dive or hard dive. Would be this corner. Put his bubble down, try to get a kill, try to force them off the high ground if possible, or at the very least, force them to the next vertical corner. This is the next vertical corner. So the idea is you're going from vertical corner to vertical corner. But here's the other thing. Who would he be doing this against? He would be doing this if there was a hog set up here, like a road hog, and he tried to do this here, he would have no success. The road hog would walk into his bubble, shoot him, hook him, shoot him, or break his bubble and force him back before he could do any meaningful damage. He has his gun, the Tesla cannon, right? It does barely any damage per second. I think it's the lowest damage per second gun in the game, I'm pretty sure. But on multiple targets at once, it ends up doing quadruple the amount, or up to 5 times the amount damage per second. So it's just like Reinhardt's, who goes from 100 damage per swing to 400. His would go from something like, 100 damage per second to 400 as well, or something like that. But just like guaranteed. So let's say there's a soldier and a mercy here, right? Just soldier and mercy's up there. What does he do? Bang! Zaps both of them simultaneously, right? What this does is it either forces one of 3 things will happen. The mercy will just heal the soldier, right? So he's no longer damage boosted, or the soldier will use his biofield, right? And the mercy will continue to damage boost him while she walks away. Either way, if he uses biofield, that's what's considered a successful first soft dive. That's him using an ability that he needs to stay alive. So the moment something like a biofield is popped, you either chase the mercy to finish her if you think she's low enough, or you just drop back down and wait for your cooldowns to come back and wait for soldiers' biofield to run out. Maybe pick up his health back if you lost a bit of health. Yes, and then what happens next is soldiers will back up because he has less abilities, and you'll make a re-engagement, do your burst damage combo with the melee jump, and he'll have nothing to self-heal, so the mercy will have to no longer damage boost, she'll have to heal. And in the time you're doing this, you want to damage both of them at the same time and finish that mercy. If you can't finish the soldier off, that's fine, but you want to kill both of them, obviously, that's what you do. But the point is you threaten their life, right? They are at a threat of dying. So because they know they're at a threat of dying, they will retreat from there to here, and then when you make your second engagement, they will retreat from there to here, or even to here. In the best case scenario, they just give up the high ground completely while shooting at you, and they rotate around here. If you can get them off the high ground completely, basically what that does is that opens up the opportunity for the Genji and the Lucio, or the Pharah and the Echo who are behind you, to come down main and shoot at the projectile heroes over here, right? And they can't get shot back at by the hit scan heroes, who counter them. So the projectile heroes can't defend themselves from the diving Pharah, Echo, or Genji, or Mercy, or Lucio, right? So if you force them up here, you immediately... You don't chase them, right? You don't want to finish the kill. You've accomplished your goal. They're off the high ground, or they're running away and they have no abilities, or their Mercy's dead. That's enough. You can finish them off if you want. But, ideally, you would immediately switch your attention and you don't want any projectile heroes holding this space. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Wow, he swings so much faster. Just to swing a lot slower, same with Genji's blade. I like this change, honestly, I think this can swing better. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Winston has 625 HP. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 250 armor or 225 armor or something around that. 20 ults, he gets 1000 HP as well, so he gets health back. Plus he has a 600 HP shield. So if we look at Reinhardt swing, Winston's take. Reinhardt's pin goes from horizontal corner to horizontal corner, right? Winston's jump goes from the ground to the vertical corner, or vertical corner to vertical corner. And these are corners of cover that I'm talking about, by the way. You want to take corners of cover away from them. That is what map space is. So yes, and then there's the jump. The fire strike is an interesting one because, okay, so Reinhardt has his shield, 1400 HP as he for more damage as he goes forward. Winston has his bubble, 600 HP, right? So it does less, protects from less damage, but hits against do less, so it doesn't need as much protection. The fire strike, I guess, could be compared to Winston's ranged. Winston has a ranged, a sniper shot he can do for 50 damage at a range. So that's the same as his fire strike, basically. It does a lot less damage, but that's because he has vertical maneuverability, he does less damage. That's like a rule. And he has less health as well. 625, 225 armor or something around that. And Reinhardt has 675, 225, 250 armor, something around that. So 50 more health, but his shield has 800 more shield. So that's a big factor. And Winston's shield, 750 more shield can be like mitigating damage. So he mitigates less damage, has 50 less health, around the same armor, but you will notice that their ults are different. So Reinhardt's ult doesn't knock people around as he goes forward, which is probably the only major difference they have. It's a stunning ult, but you know, it's just a stun for people on the horizontal to finish them off with the rest of his damage combos. Whereas Winston's like can ult, gets 1000 HP back, which makes them more tanky, sort of like D.Va's remacking after bombing, and then he can forcefully knock them off the high ground and finish them off, and like separate the team. So yeah, Winston sort of like separates the team because he's more divey, and Reinhardt wants to knock all the heroes down and then just swing and fire strike them. But in general, they're like opposites, but they do the same thing. Winston again, this is why people think Winston, as well as Reinhardt, are terrible. So if there's an Orisa or a Mauga around this corner, and he's zapping them, he does no damage against armor, and literally the lowest DPS rate in the game. That doesn't mean that, you know, Orisa counters Winston and she's super powerful. or Mauga counters Winston and Mauga's super powerful. It just means that if you're walking along the ground with Winston and Mauga's walking along the horizontal, Mauga has the advantage because he's supposed to have an advantage along the horizontal paths. The whole point of picking this hero is to be able to come up here and do damage. See, if he comes up here and does damage, he does 100 damage per second more, whatever damage rate more than a Mauga does. When Mauga runs over here, what does he do? He can't shoot who's around that corner. He can't do any damage, in fact. He does no damage to anyone around the corner. Whereas Winston does that much damage plus melee, plus that, he blocks 650, and he forces them back. So it's incomparable. Not only this, but if a Mauga's down there and a Winston's up here, Winston actually can damage him and Mauga can't. So Winston can utilize the high ground, Mauga can't. You know what I mean? So like, he can use height as a cover while zapping heroes beneath it. And this is like where I think people just get confused, because you're like, oh well, what if Mauga just runs to the high ground? Well, that's the whole point, is he's not supposed to be able to easily access the high ground. Winston, from this position, right, from here, right, this is the attacker's map space. I think it's commonly agreed that this is like, you don't want to be here as a defender because the attackers control the space and you'll just die out of position. He can go straight to the high ground. Straight to this high ground here, which is the end of the high ground, with one ability. Mauga can't. You know what Mauga has to do? Mauga has to choose one of these multiple paths, let's say the quickest one. He has to run. So Winston just jumped up there to there. Mauga has to run here. He has to run through here, all while taking damage. Has to run through here, all while taking damage. Right? Has to run up here, all while taking damage. He has to run around here, all while taking damage. Taking damage the whole way around, right? All the way here. Still taking damage while he's walking around. Still taking damage, and then he finally gets here. So that's the whole point of picking a hero like this. Or Mauga, or Hammond, or Diva, or Dude. They don't have to walk literally like at least 100 meters to get here. They can forcefully reposition these hit scan straight away, because ideally they'd be hit scan. So why is this an advantage? Well, it's really quite simple. If on your team, right, if your team has friendly hit scans, right, and you've chosen Mauga or Orisa as your tank, you can't create any space for your hit scan to take space. The space you're taking is for rush heroes to take space. That's all you're accomplishing. Which, honestly, it's fine. It's good that you're accomplishing that for a different reason. But what it means is that Pharahs or Echoes or Genjis, they will just be deleted at this choke point here. Or if they decide to go on a coastal flank, right, and if they decide to go this way, they'll get deleted if they go this way. Because as a Mauga, you're not stopping the hit scan. So the space you're taking, if you're, say, taking space along here, is perfect for heroes like Tracer, for heroes like Sombra, and for heroes like Reaver. Perfect for that, because they want to take this space here. That path, that path, that path, along the horizontal. They want to take that high ground path. So yeah, you're opening, you're putting their attention on you, anyone who's defending this side, and that's creating an opening for your rush heroes to come in and take space. What it's not doing, however, is creating an opening for your dive heroes. Your dive heroes are stuck back at the spawn choke point, or just straight up dead. because you haven't created any space for them. That's pretty much the difference. Whereas a Winston, Diva, whatever, you went like this, you're immediately creating space for your Pharah and your Echo and your Genji to follow, and then collapse upon the projectile heroes or the heroes, but preferably the projectile. So if you claim this corner, and even better yet, if you force them off this high ground back there, in that space of time, a Pharah or an Echo or a Genji or whatever, they can come around here and they can dive any heroes up on this high ground. And this will all be happening while... So let's see how many seconds you buy them. If I'm forced off here, shooting, let's like count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You buy them 11 seconds to make a dive against, say, a Torbjorn or a Hanzo, Mei or a Junkrat who are holding these positions. And the Torbjorn, Hanzo, Mei and the Junkrat can't fight back against the Pharah, Echo or the Genji. So, as a tank, you're either creating space, taking corners for your rush heroes or for your dive heroes who are behind you. Yeah, I think I'll go to a practice range and no, I'll stay here, actually, it'll be fine. So, I'll explain how counterplay works perfectly now, okay? And I've already said it quite like a million times, but they all the heroes have a nature to them depending on what they're rolling. So, defensive hit scan heroes, right? They have, because once they apply damage, right, above, below, or forward, right, as soon as they click the damage button, they are applying damage to whoever they're clicking on, and they don't have to leave their shots to make a prediction, right, of where they'll be. So there's no delay in the damage they do. To compensate for the 0 delay of damage, they actually do less damage per second in comparison to their projectile counterparts. So, I'll start with an example of, we'll go to DPS to look at this. We will look at Bastion and Torbjorn. I don't know with the updated Bastion what it is, but I remember what it was with the old Bastion. Bastion used to be able to 4-shot, headshot, any DPS hero with 200 HP. Now since it's 250, it will be 5-shot headshot. And his DPS rate is... So this is his, like, damage ability at a range, right? This is his range damage ability against small targets. So, when he's in this field, right? And it takes 5 shots to get. This is his closer range damage or range damage against so when he's in this form, it takes 5 bullets and 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. It takes that long to get an elim if you hit every shot, right? Which you should be able to if you had perfect aim, like top 500. But like, yeah, so He has that. He has this, which is a 6-second ability, I think. How many seconds? And he has that, which is sort of like Soldier's Grenade. He doesn't have a self-heal anymore, but he has 350 HP, 100 armor, and this is 6 seconds of serious damage against any tank getting close to him, or them serious as well if they get close. His counterpart is Torbjorn. So he had a projectile weapon, he had a hit scan weapon, Torbjorn has a projectile weapon. Torbjorn can, if he hits his headshots, he kills the targets that have 200 or 250 HP much quicker. Bang, bang. That's how quickly he would kill any 200 HP hero, which is much faster than the 5 shots from Bastion, right? It has changed since he's gotten a nerf. It now takes that, and a melee, because they've been nerfed. Not a big difference, but it's just that. So, as opposed to Bastion's yeah, so in other words, Torbjorn has a quicker DPS rate than Bastion when he hits his headshots, right? So that's very important to remember. This is when they hit their shots, they have a quicker DPS rate. Head or body. So Torbjorn's form of Bastion is... I know that there's 3 shots of Roadhog, so just keep this in mind that if he gets 3 headshots on a Roadhog with 800 HP, it will die. And he gets 9 quick burst shotgun shots once they close the distance. So he can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And those shotgun blasts, it would kill 3 Roadhogs, one after the other. You know what I mean? And Bastion does something similar, but it's not as much damage per second as a Torbjorn using this ability. It also grants him 100 overhead, right? So he has 300 HP, 50 of it armor. Bastion has 350 HP, 100 of it armor. But when Torbjorn uses his ability, he has 400 HP, 100 overhealth, 50 armor, which is more than Bastion's 350 HP, 100 armor into this mode. He retains the same amount. 350 something of armor. How much? What is the difference? 300. Yeah, so he has 50 more HP basically. Granted, it's not armor, so there's no 50% reduction, but there is a 50% reduction at the end of the health. So 50 with the HP. And the overhealth also grants him speed boost. So Torbjorn is more sustainable, and he does more damage per second than Bastion, right? That's the main thing we're looking at. The difference in DPS rate and the difference in sustainability. Okay? And the reason he has this is because he has disadvantages. A projectile shot is delayed. When you shoot it, there's a delay to the damage landing. Not only this weapon also has a curve disadvantage, meaning it's shot in a parabola, whatever. So you have to choose the correct height to land a headshot. That's why it's very hard to hit your shots. So that's why it does more damage per second. That's the idea of projectile hit. Difficult to hit, but if you hit them, it does more damage per second. So Torbjorn doesn't actually have a faster fire rate than Bastion. But even though he doesn't have a faster fire rate, he's still even though he doesn't have a faster fire rate, right? He still does more damage per second because each pellet does a high amount of damage. I believe it's like 110 for Oh, it's 120 per headshot for his pellet, right? The Bastion's weapon, it's 50 damage per bullet. So that's why it takes 2 pellets, and it takes 5 for Bastion. Or twice as many. That's why it's so much quicker to get a kill with Torbjorn than it is Bastion. But there's a reason for this disadvantage. There's a reason that Bastion, when in turret form, can't get headshots and does less damage per second during the 6-second duration. 1 second, I actually need to see that it was 6 seconds. Yes, it is 6 seconds, okay. So they're both 6 seconds, but obviously they're like brother heroes. Bastion can't get headshots while in turret form. Torbjorn can get headshots while in his overdrive. And he does also have the option to do this. So if you're shooting, you can use this against if it's a tank or someone with a large hitbox, use the shotgun. If it's a squishy, use the rivet gun to be more precise at a range. If it's a squishy right in front of you, you shotgun them in the face because they're closer. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So what are the differences? The differences are Bastion does less damage per second with his ult fire, he does less damage per second in his turret form, and he can't get headshots in his turret form. Each bullet does less damage, and he has less health. He has 350 health, 50 armor, or it might be 100 armor. I think it's 50. Let me just check. Oh, it's 100. Yeah, 350 health, 100 of it armor, and that's it. Torbjorn has, yes, it's 300 health with 50 armor to begin with, but once he uses his ability, it becomes 400 health, 100 over health, 50 armor, which is more than 100 armor with 350 HP. So he's more sustainable, and he gets a speed boost while he's in this mode. Not only this, he has a hitbox, which is harder to hit. Torbjorn's hitbox is smaller than Bastion's massive hitbox. So, not sure if that will be a recurring theme or not, but it's definitely true. We'll look at Hanzo and Widow for hitboxes, eh?
Is all I have left.
Not really sure. We'll go into hitboxes later. But, most important thing, he's a projectile hero. He has high sustainability, and he does more damage per second. He uses projectiles. That's the most important thing to take away from this. That applies to every hit scan and projectile counter. So, Widowmaker.
I aim to devastate.
So here's the thing about Widowmaker. Widow does, especially with the new nerf to Hanzo, more damage per shot, right? But you'll notice her charge time takes longer. So Widow actually ends up doing less damage per second than Hanzo. See that? That took that. Hanzo.
Honor is all I have.
See how quick that is? It's slightly faster than Widow's rate of fire, right? It's quite faster actually. Normally projectiles do more damage than the other weapon, right? In this unique case, it's actually Widow doing more damage than Hanzo, but not per second. When firing many shots, Hanzo's damage rate is quicker than Widow's per second. It's just that each shot is more for Widow, especially with the nerfs. But you gotta also remember, he also has this ability where he can fire 5 quick burst projectiles. So Hanzo has become spam zone. He's lost all his ambush. Everything like connected to him ambushing and being stealthy has just been destroyed. It's all gone. So that's like a, you know, it is what it is. So what else does Hanzo have that Widow doesn't? It's a projectile, and not only is it a projectile, it has an arc. Alright? So it's harder to hit, and there's a delay to the target. Normally I'd say, because of this disadvantage, it does more damage. That is the general rule. But for Hanzo, you know, the community actually just hates Hanzo and Junkrat, so they've nerfed him. But he can no longer do that. But nevertheless, he fires quicker and he has the storm arrows, so technically speaking, he does a higher damage per second rate when you play him as a stand hero. Which, you know, kind of goes against the whole, you know, lesson I'm trying to teach you about projectiles doing more damage, but he does more damage per second, and that's what matters, I guess, in this example. I could just go, you know, Mei and Ashe, right? They both used to do 150 damage with a headshot. That's probably a better example.
Come on, Snowball. We need our help.
1, 3, 4, 5, and Ashe does.
I'm the last one you'll ever cross.
It's actually kind of similar. One sec. I'm spamming the button there because it's hard to actually shoot her gun.
Come on, Snowball. They need our help.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm the last one you'll ever cross.
Okay, this game's stupid. They messed up everything that they should be doing about the game. Ashe has a slightly faster fire rate than Mei. I just think it's dumb. I don't think it's the way what they were trying to do when they started off with the game, but that's what they've ended up doing. But to be fair, Ashe is a pure damage hero, but Mei has her main utility is a wall. She's a utility-based hero. That might be why she does a little bit less damage. You're meant to get value out of her wall. And also, she has fire. Whereas every Ashe ability is just damage. It's all damage-based. So, shooting the gun, shooting the dynamite, so they take like something ridiculous, like 150 damage. And yeah, moving up. Mei has her shots, her wall to separate heroes, and then this to slow down and damage people who are close to her and separated. Her other ability is like self-heal. So she has a lot more. So first of all, that self-heal is the survivability. So 300 HP plus, say she gets to 1 HP. If she gets to 1 HP and presses this, she gets another 300 HP. Or maybe it's less, I'm not really sure. But she gets a lot of HP, so much more survivability. Ashe, 250 HP, she has 50 less. And she has no self-heal ability. So she's much more squishy. She's just like, no self-heal, does the same amount of damage, which I think's dumb, because I just think they're just messing the game up, but you know, since she's a damage-only hero, I guess it's okay. But, if they wanted to balance the game perfectly, they'd make it so that she does less damage per second. But that's whatever. You know.
Come on, Snowball. They need our help.
So, we've gone over the differences in hit scan and projectile. Projectile, more sustainability, more damage per second, but it's with a projectile. Hit scan, less survivability, less damage per second, but it's hit scan damage, so it's guaranteed to hit at a range. So now that we've established that, we will look at the rush and the dive heroes. So, rush heroes, right?
You can't escape death.
Good Tracer. Tracer, now she doesn't have much health, right? But it doesn't matter that she has less health because she has the maneuverability to dodge as she's damaging the enemy. And even if she does get damaged, say she gets headshot by a Mei, headshot by an Ashe, she can recall and get all her health back. And that's the same for Reaper and Sombra. They can get all their health back by fading back or teleporting back to a health pack, and that's why they have more sustainability than their dive counterparts. They have an ability that makes them get more sustainability. That's the same as Torb and Mei. They both have abilities that get them more health. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Genji, Pharah, and Echo. 250 HP. They have no ability that makes them invulnerable or getting their health back, like Reaper, Sombra, and Tracer. So he has no ability to get health back, so he has no sustainability. His damage source is one of the weakest damage sources in the game at a range. Very easy to dodge his projectiles. And he can only do real damage up close because, you know, projectiles and whatnot. Same with Pharah, same with Echo. They do terrible damage at a range simply because they just walk out of it. It's a slow projectile. It's a very slow projectile, in fact. I think it's some of the slowest projectiles in the game. And yeah, it's just very slow projectile. Does very low damage per second at a range, but once they close the distance, does high damage per second once they close the distance. That's the same with rush heroes. They do very low damage at a range. Once they close the distance, it's very high. But I guess I could do this with Orisa and Doom, right? So Doom's damage is 1, 2, 3, 4 little shotgun blasts that can take out it's 100 damage per headshot, 50 per body shot. So bang, 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 you take out one target who has 200 health, but now they all have 250, so I don't know what's going on there. Orisa? Bang, bang. That is a lot more damage than Doom. You know what I mean? Damage mitigation, damage mitigation, damage mitigation, and sphere. Doom. Not even damage mitigation. Not damage mitigation, but when they whack them, does some little bit of damage. Blocks all he's got, but it's just used to recharge a punch. He does get health and shield back from it, but his sustain is nothing like Orisa, Mauga, or Junker Queen. And that's the same with Hammond and Mauga, and that's the same with Winston and Rhino. They all have less sustain, and they all do less damage per second. So that's, honestly, it's the same for hit scan and dive. They both do less damage per second, and they both have less sustain, but dive heroes have vertical movement, which is an advantage that rush heroes don't have. Hit scan heroes have ranged accuracy, which is an advantage that projectile heroes don't have. Hit scan heroes get value from using the high ground. Projectile heroes don't really get value from it. That's what I'm trying to say. So going back, sorry, one sec. So going back to my original definitions of the theory, right? How it works is defensive hit scan has low HP, low sustain, low damage per second, but it is accurate at a range. And that is what counters dive heroes. Because dive heroes have low HP themselves. And dive heroes, the advantage of playing them is moving vertically so that you're difficult to hit at a range and as they close the distance. Hit scan heroes aren't affected by this change at all. So that's why hit scan heroes that do low damage per second can completely deny space from dive heroes who do low damage per second as well. Even less damage per second. But conversely, right, against rush heroes, their damage per second rate is too low to stop their rush, basically. If hit scan heroes position themselves at the end of tunnel ways and choke ways and horizontal paths, right? Horizontal corners, we'll call them. These tanks like Orisa, Mauga, Jungle Queen can close the damage to them, close the distance to them, right? On account that they have more HP as they walk up to them, and the headshot damage they do, if they do headshot damage at all, because remember Bastion doesn't do headshot damage when he's fighting. Man, did I just cut out there? The damage per second rate, because it's lower, these heroes can sustain as they close the distance with their ability, their health, their spear, and their fortify. And they can't defend themselves from this because they have a low health pool and they do low damage per second, right? But they can defend themselves against the tanks like whatever, because tanks like this, right? They do low damage per second, right? And on top of doing low damage per second, their shields are weaker. And they have less health as well. So that's why the cycle works the way it does. So you counter one type and you're countered by the other type. So defensive hit scan counters dive and is countered by rush. Sorry, counters offensive dive and is countered by offensive rush heroes. Offensive dive heroes, they are countered by hit scan, like we just said. Defensive hit scan counters them because they get no advantage from their vertical maneuverability at a range, right? They can't dodge their bullets at a range. They get headshot at a range and they don't have much HP to begin with. So that's why the dive heroes don't counter the hit scan heroes. But they do, however, counter the projectile heroes. So, Torbjorn, Junkrat. If you're getting dove by an enemy Pharah, right, you can't hit her with your grenades because she's moving above you in a zigzag direction. So she can dodge in one of 4 directions, and not only this, you have to predict which one of the 4 directions she's going to go. By the time you fire your projectile, she can change her mind and switch her direction as well. She can literally voluntarily choose to dodge your damage as she approaches. So that's why the dive heroes counter the projectile heroes. Because the hit scan heroes can just instantly damage them when they click on them. Projectile heroes can't. See what I mean? they can just dodge that. Not only this, so projectile heroes, they have more sustain as a general rule. So here's a bad example, but let's say Torbjorn, right? Torbjorn shoots at you. He has 300 HP, so he has extra health, which isn't good against dive heroes because they do low damage per second. But if you're doing low damage per second against a hero that's also doing low damage per second because they can't hit you, you do more damage per second than they do. It doesn't matter that they have more health, because you're still going to whittle their health down, and they're not going to whittle yours in return. With this ability, it still doesn't matter. You're going to miss your shots, right? That's the whole like idea. And yeah, they just win the fight. Even though you have more HP, they still win the fight anyway. That's what you want to take away from this. Projectiles miss their shots. Defensive projectiles. So that's how offensive dive works. It's countered by defensive hit scan, and it counters defensive projectile, and that's the reason. And now we will go into defensive projectile. I need to explain the 3 forms of dives and why these dives counter projectiles. So, say a projectile hero, like Torbjorn, for example, tried to do the same thing a McCree or a soldier or a widow did on this map, right? So I've already explained the vertical corners. This is the coastal vertical corner here. If you're setting up here, right, as a McCree or a soldier or whatever, and you're trying to shoot a Pharaoh over here, they will just shoot you while dodging your damage. The same applies to over here. They will just shoot you while dodging your damage, and they will eventually kill you. Especially if you're shooting up at a target. See how there's a change in elevation? Like I'm shooting up? When you're shooting at a target that's changing its elevation, they can dodge you downwards or upwards. You will almost never hit their head. If you hit their head, it is extremely lucky that you did it. So basically, you can't get headshots, you can't even get body shots most of the time, so you literally just do no damage, right, because they're hard to hit, while you are super easy to hit. You're, from their perspective, right, if they're diving from above, you can only walk here or here, and they have a 50% chance of landing a direct rocket on you, or a try shot of shurikens on you, which will get your health to almost half just there. And meanwhile, you can't shoot back at them. So, whereas if you were a McCree, you could shoot back at them. So that's pretty much what the idea is here. So you can't control airspace, right? Because the idea of controlling this airspace here is to prevent them from diving over there. You don't want them to get around that corner, and you don't want them to get there and force out your teammates who are holding the rush pathways, right? That's the goal. And if you can't do that as a Junkrat or a Torbjorn sitting here, right, you're giving them all this space, all this aerial space. And remember how I said if you give up the map space, it's a soft form of dying. It's basically the same as dying, except it's not a full death. Instead of dying and going back to spawn, you get damaged and you get forced back here. Meanwhile, they walk on top of the objective. That's already an 80% lost fight. You don't want that to happen. 80% of the fight is already lost. So you still have one more chance to make a martyrdom attempt, run on the point, and try to kill or trade as much as you can, but you don't want to even get to it. make the fight get to that point. You want them to already be dead before they even get to that point. That should be what your goal is. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So if we go back, so there's a floor dive or a catwalk dive. I'll start with that, alright? So a catwalk dive is where you're a hero, like Pharah, Echo, or Genji, or Diva, or Ball, or whatever, and you jump onto the high ground from below, alright? What ends up happening, right? And this won't really even matter if you hit scan as well, because this is about reaction time. It's different to an aerial or a roof dive. This is a dive about reaction time. If you're holding here, right, and an Echo's head pops up there and moves diagonally like that in a zigzag, or a Pharah boosts, even if you have really good reflexes and you shoot them as they're coming up, you will only land a body shot. You will only land a body shot, and they will, in the time you've done a little bit of damage to them, this is as a hit scan as well, by the way, they will shoot one rocket into you, have you at half from death, and then they'll shoot another and you'll be dead, or they'll change with the updates, obviously. But that's the idea of a floor dive. A floor dive is, honestly, it's the most deadly kind of dive, because they have an advantage at a close range. They want to be right in front of your face and right above you. And if they do a floor dive, they go from right in front of your face to right above you. And if they're above you, you're left turning in circles above you trying to hit them, and you'll miss your shots, while they will just land their shots on you because you're a sitting duck, just moving like this. It's really easy to hit, say 5 sticky grenades, 3 shurikens into a dash melee combo, and with like a double jumping Genji over your head, double jumping and wall climbing, or just rockets from Pharah. So it's easy for them to shoot you, it's hard for you to shoot them. So that's a floor dive, which is honestly the deadliest kind of dive that can happen. A vertical corner dive is a dive from, say, that corner there, or that corner there, where they spam damage at you from a range, right? And then they use a quick movement ability to go from that corner to the corner that's above you. And when they're at the corner that's above you, you know, you'll struggle to hit them and you'll be forced back. The only difference is you have a little bit of warning, because it's a mid-range dive. You go from a corner to a corner. That's why that one's more deadly, because it's going from beneath to above you. And it can go from beneath to above you in front of you, or they can flank you and go from beneath to above you. So that's extra good. Let's just continue over here. Sorry, I fell off the high ground. So that's a vertical corner dive. And the reason we call it a vertical corner, even though like see how that's a horizontal corner? Like, what makes that a vertical corner? Well, it's the same corner, right? The only difference is they're just up higher. So you have to look up at them. You know what I mean? That's pretty much the only difference. And since you have to look up, and they can move in an X position, like a zigzagging X, right? Zigzag left and right. Their head zigzagging left and right. So projectiles are based, their aiming style is primarily based off of predicting where the enemy hitbox will be when you shoot it. You have to time it to be where they'll be. You don't know where they're going to be when they're moving in the air. So that's why it's a disadvantage. At a range, also, especially at a range, because at a range, their hitboxes become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and more difficult to accurately hit and predict where they will be. So yeah, at a range, projectiles in the air are completely useless. And that's just like looking up, right?